Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Kane recorded Kyle and Audra's inappropriate behavior and uses it to extort Jack? Finished and moved on. Or does it? It would be a shame to let all that naughtiness go to waste, and we have a hunch that their encounter was recorded. Kane Ashby, played by Billy Flynn, told Chance Chancellor, played by Connor Floyd, that there were no cameras in the bedrooms, but do we have faith in him? All day, nor. Since Citizen Kane was untrustworthy and watched his guests in public areas, who is to say that he didn't also wire private rooms? Fans of Y&R, let's break down this juicy sitch. Will Claire burst? We would be almost disappointed if Kane didn't monitor his guests in their sleeping cars. Why ruin his bad guy image with a bit of decorum? The show went to a lot of trouble to set up Kyle and Audra for a slip-up. Would they just let this scandalous plot go with the wind? Even though Kyle claims it was fabricated, Audra and Kyle were practically naked while they were having an affair. Diane Jenkins Abbott, played by Susan Walters, advised him that Claire Newman, played by Haley Erin, would not approve of Kyle participating in Audra's game. Kyle went too far. Claire is grieving Cole Howards to seduce him. But if there's camera footage, Kyle is cooked. If it helped him, Kane wouldn't hesitate to use such footage. Kane could give the video to Victor in exchange for Chancellor or use blackmail against Kyle and Jack Abbott. Victor would use the video in this scenario to sabotage Claire's relationship with Kyle and obtain $5 million from him. Will Claire die from video? Explosive The Young and the Restless spoilers hint that more drama is coming for Kyle and Audra, so stick with us and we'll bring you all the latest dish on this hot situation. Share your thoughts on bedroom cams with us. Kane Ashby wasn't looking for trouble, not this time. At least, but trouble had a strange habit of finding him, especially in Genoa City where secrets had a shelf life shorter than a glass of scotch at society. After months of keeping a low profile, rebuilding the business edge he once held and dodging Victor Newman's shadowy games, Kane stumbled across a scandal he never expected. One late night, with the air still warm from the August heat, Kane had returned to the Abbott estate invited for a tentative business dinner with Tracy Abbott to discuss a potential collaboration between Chancellor Winters and My Beauty. But fate, as always, had other plans. Instead of finding Tracy, he found a half-ajar door near the guest wing, a faint moan echoing down the corridor, and the unmistakable silhouettes of Kyle Abbott and Audra Charles entangled on Jack's antique desk. The scent of jasmine perfume, the sharp sound of Kyle's belt buckle hitting the wood, and Audra's soft gasp were all unmistakable. Kane didn't intend to stay, but instinct one honed from years of corporate warfare and betrayal compelled him to pull out his phone. He had no love for Kyle, who'd burned too many bridges and gotten away clean every time, and Audra had her own dark web of games that always seemed to end in someone else's ruin. So, with the camera lens barely peeking from behind the doorframe, Kane hit record. 2 minutes. That's all it took. 2 minutes of messy, sultry evidence that could bring down Kyle Abbott's fragile attempts at redemption, destroy Audra's strategic hold over Newman Media, and give Kane something he hadn't possessed in a long time, leverage. The next morning, Kane didn't rush. He played the long game. Let Kyle wake up smug in his sheets. Let Jack sip his black coffee at the Abbott breakfast table unaware of the dagger hanging above his son's head. Meanwhile, Kane sat quietly at Society, laptop open. The recording paused perfectly on a frame where Kyle's shirt hung half off and Audra's lips whispered something wicked in his ear. It wasn't just about sex, this was about betrayal, power, and ammunition. And Kane had every intention of firing the first shot. Later that afternoon, Jack received a discreet text, "Meet me at Chancellor Tower. Office B2. Alone." Jack, accustomed to corporate threats, initially dismissed it until he noticed the sender, Kane Ashby. That changed everything. The last Jack heard, Kane was re-emerging in the Genoa City business sphere, circling Lily, causing Victor headaches, and now, apparently, had a reason to reach out. Curiosity or paranoia got the better of him. Jack arrived sharply at 6 p.m. Kane, ever calm, leaned back in his chair with a drink in hand. "Jack," he greeted, voice smooth as silk. "Glad you came. This won't take long." Jack folded his arms, wary. "If this is about business, you'd be better off going through proper channels. I'm not in the mood for games." Kane smirked. "Who said anything about business?" He rotated his laptop screen to face Jack, hit play, and watched as the color drained from the older man's face. The video rolled, Kyle's lips on Audra's neck, his voice unmistakable as he said, "Jack can never find out. This would kill him." Audra, breathless, responded, "Then let's make it worth the risk." Jack's jaw tightened, eyes frozen to the screen as though he hoped it would somehow turn into a different scene. "You son of a," he hissed. "What do you want?" Kane didn't blink. "I want what's mine," he said simply. "I want a seat at the table. I want access to Abbotts' distribution contracts, specifically the ones tied to international beauty partners. And I want a formal partnership between Chancellor Winters and Abbotts underwritten by your signature, Jack, not Kyle's." Jack shook his head. "You're out of your mind if you think I'm going to be blackmailed into selling out my company." Kane leaned in, the glint in his eye cold. "Then maybe you'd prefer it if Victor got this video first? Or maybe Phyllis? Summer? Think about it, your son's messy affair with the woman who helped torpedo Newman Media's reputation, caught on video, on your property. How long do you think your legacy survives that kind of PR nightmare?" Jack swallowed hard. Kane had him in a chokehold, and he knew it. It wasn't just about Kyle anymore, it was about public image, shareholder confidence, the inevitable implosion if the footage leaked. Jack loved his son, but Kyle's decisions, especially post-divorce, post-summer, had been reckless. "Why are you doing this, Kane?" Jack asked, genuine pain in his voice. "You're not this man." Kane's eyes flickered, a trace of something wounded surfacing before hardening again. "I wasn't," he admitted. "But this town chews up good men and spits them out like gristle. Look what it did to Neil. To Devon. Even Billy. You play nice here, you lose. I'm done losing." Jack sat back, defeated for the moment, brain scrambling for a way out. "You're making a dangerous enemy," he warned. Kane shrugged. "I've had worse." Jack finally stood, nodding slowly. "I'll get you your deal. But if you ever threaten my family again, save it." Kane cut in. "This isn't personal. It's just business." But of course, it was personal. The fallout began almost immediately. Audra, sensing something was off, tried to reach Kyle, but he ghosted her for 48 hours. When they finally met, his eyes were wild with panic. "You said this was safe," he barked. Audra arched a brow. "You didn't exactly resist me, Kyle." "Someone recorded us," he hissed. "And now Kane has the footage." Audra's blood ran cold. She had made enemies in her time, but Kane was a different breed, controlled, calculating, dangerously underestimated. "What's he asking for?" she said. Kyle didn't answer. "What aren't you telling me?" she pressed. Kyle looked away, shame creeping in. "He showed it to my father." Audra cursed under her breath. "This could bury us both." Kyle ran a hand through his hair. "My father's bending to him. That means this is far from over." Meanwhile, Kane's demands grew bolder. He used his new seat at the table to slowly influence strategic moves at Abbotts, nudging out Kyle's authority and placing Chancellor Winters into powerful marketing channels. He brokered a rebranding initiative, brought in international consultants, and quietly began building a mini-empire within the walls of Jack's own company. Lily, unaware of the deal but suspicious of Kane's sudden rise, confronted him. "What did you do?" she asked one night over drinks. "You've always been smart, but this kind of leap, it doesn't happen without leverage." Kane looked at her, conflicted. He still loved Lily in his own way, but their past was a graveyard of mistrust. "I'm just seizing opportunities," he replied coolly, "and making sure our legacy finally means something." Lily narrowed her eyes. "You're playing with fire. And you know it." Kane offered her a smile, sad and unreadable. Better than being the one who gets burned. Back at the Abbott mansion, Jack wrestled with guilt and fury. He'd raised Kyle to be better than this, to learn from his own mistakes. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe Kyle had only ever learned how to survive, not how to lead. Meanwhile, Ashley began asking questions, suspecting Kane's growing influence was more than just good business sense. Billy, too, grew restless. "You think Kane just showed up with a plan and lucked into Abbotts?" he asked Jack. "He's playing chess. And we're the pawns." Jack, tired and worn, knew Billy was right. But with the video still hanging over Kyle's head, there was only so much they could do. For now. And Kane? Kane relished every moment. He'd been cast aside too many times, treated like an outsider, dismissed as reckless or unstable. But now he held the cards. And he had no intention of folding. Let them come, he muttered to himself late one evening, watching the video one last time before deleting it from his device. He had copies, of course safely encrypted and stored, but he wanted them to believe it was over. To think he'd let go. Because that's when people made mistakes. That's when they got sloppy. That's when Kane struck hardest. But Genoa City had a way of turning tides. Audra, cornered and furious, wasn't one to take humiliation quietly. She began digging into Kane's financial records, searching for dirt, and when she discovered an old offshore account tied to a shell company used during Kane's troubled Australian days, she smiled. "Checkmate's coming, Ashby," she whispered. And Kyle? For all his guilt, he began wondering if turning the tables might be possible. "What if we leak it ourselves?" he asked Audra one night. "Spin it. Say it was deepfake. Say it's Jack trying to destroy us." Audra looked at him like he'd lost his mind, but then, maybe desperation was contagious. Still, for now, Kane reigned. He had the upper hand. The secrets. The power. The game was far from over, but he was finally winning. And in Genoa City, that meant everything. In the following days, the atmosphere in Genoa City thickened like a storm ready to explode. Whispers filled the boardrooms and corridors of Jabot and Chancellor Winters. No one said it out loud, but everyone could feel the shift. Kane Ashby had leveled up. Jack Abbott, typically composed and in control, looked more frayed than usual. And Kyle, though still impeccably dressed and outwardly confident, carried the kind of dread only a ticking bomb could cause. But the most curious transformation was Lily Winters. Watching Kane maneuver into Jack's circle, forge sudden deals, and claim victory she hadn't authorized, she realized something was off. He was making power moves under the radar, and despite their broken history, she knew Kane better than most. She had seen him broken, seen him righteous, seen him romantic. But this Kane was cold, strategic, unforgiving, and that chilled her more than the betrayal itself. Lily cornered him in his penthouse. "Tell me the truth," she demanded, crossing her arms. "What do you have on Jack Abbott?" Kane, pouring a glass of scotch, didn't even turn around. "Why assume I have anything?" he deflected. "Maybe I'm just that good." Lily scoffed. "No one climbs this fast, not even in Genoa City. You're not slick enough to fool me, Kane. If you're dragging Chancellor Winters into some scheme, I deserve to know." Kane finally faced her, his eyes searching hers. "It's not about dragging you into anything," he said carefully. "It's about finally carving out something of our own. Haven't you ever wanted to stop playing nice?" Lily's voice dropped. "Not like this. Not at the cost of integrity." He gave a small, bitter smile. "Integrity doesn't sign contracts, Lily. Leverage does." Meanwhile, Jack was unraveling. He hadn't told Diane the truth yet. She had noticed the tension, the late-night phone calls, the terse conversations with Kyle. But Jack couldn't bring himself to say it. "Your son is being blackmailed because he couldn't keep it in his pants, and I'm paying the price." It wasn't just shame, it was fear. If Diane found out, if Summer heard, if Jabot's board members caught even a whiff of scandal, it would open the door for outsiders, people like Victor, or Audra, or even Ashley, to challenge Jack's leadership. He had no choice but to play Kane's game, for now. But Diane was no fool. She confronted Kyle first. "Why has your father been walking around like someone ran over his puppy?" she asked one morning over coffee. "And don't lie to me." Kyle hesitated. His instincts screamed to deny it, but something cracked inside him. The guilt was eating him alive. "Something happened," he admitted. "And it's bad." When Diane pressed further, he broke. He told her about the tryst with Audra, the recording, Kane's blackmail, and Jack's reluctant compliance. Diane was silent for a long moment before slamming her cup down. "You've jeopardized everything we've worked for. Do you realize that?" Kyle nodded, eyes cast down. "I didn't know we were being watched." "You never do," she snapped. "Because you never think. And now your father's stuck bending to Kane Ashby." Her voice dripped venom. I'm going to fix this. You clearly can't. Diane wasted no time. That afternoon, she marched into Victor Newman's office, her heels clicking like gunshots. We need to talk, she said. Victor, bemused, raised an eyebrow. To what do I owe the pleasure? It's about Kane. And I'm willing to offer you something in return. Victor leaned back, intrigued. Now that's my language. Diane gave him the rundown. Kane's blackmail of Jack, the leverage he had, and the potential instability brewing at Jabot. Victor, predictably, smirked. So Jack's finally getting a taste of what it's like to be at the mercy of a snake. How poetic. This isn't a time for poetry, Diane snapped. It's a time for action. Kane's growing too powerful too quickly. If we don't cut him down now, he's going to become unstoppable. Victor tapped his fingers thoughtfully on the desk. What do you propose? Diane didn't flinch. Help me expose him. You've got resources I don't. People who can trace transactions, follow paper trails, dig into old records. I want to find out what else Kane is hiding. Give me that, and I'll make sure Kyle and Jack back your proposal to buy into Jabot's European sector. Victor smiled like a man who'd just been served caviar. I'll see what I can do. As Victor unleashed his investigators, Audra Charles wasn't idle either. Her own search into Kane's history bore fruit. She discovered an old alias Kane had used during his time in Myanmar, an alias linked to a fraudulent shipping company involved in money laundering. This, she muttered, scanning the digital documents, is the nail in his coffin. But she wasn't going to use it just yet. No. First, she would let Kane dig deeper into the illusion of invincibility. Then she'd strike when he least expected it. Elsewhere, Phyllis Summers got wind of the whispers, something about Kyle, Jack, and Kane. Her intuition tingled. She cornered Summer at the Grand Phoenix. Is your ex acting weird to you, too? She asked casually. Summer rolled her eyes. He's always acting weird. What's new? More than usual, Phyllis pressed. The way Jack's walking around like he's lost $1 million deal. The way Kane's name keeps popping up in places it doesn't belong. Something's up. Summer's face changed slightly. What do you know? She asked. Phyllis narrowed her eyes. Nothing. Yet. But I'm about to find out. And true to form, Phyllis did just that. She tricked her way into Kane's office after hours posing as a cleaner, bribing the night security guy, and found his laptop still warm, the files recently closed. One undeleted backup folder caught her eye. She clicked. And there it was. The video. Kyle. Audra. Raw and unedited. Her stomach turned. Of course, she thought. You stupid, stupid boy. She copied the file to her phone. She didn't know exactly what she'd do with it yet, but one thing was certain, she now had a weapon. By the next morning, the noose was tightening around Kane from all directions. He still believed he was in control. He strolled through Chancellor Winters like a king, attending meetings with executives who suddenly treated him like royalty. He called Kyle to his office, tossing him a folder of marketing plans with a smirk. Still keeping secrets, Kyle? He asked. Kyle glared. You're a snake, Kane. And you're a fool, Kane replied evenly. We all play our parts. By evening, the tide had finally begun to turn. Victor's team uncovered financial links between Kane's current holdings and criminal funds laundered years ago through shell companies in Sydney and Bangkok. Victor smiled grimly. Well, Ashby. Looks like you're not as clean as you pretend. He forwarded the files directly to Diane and Jack. Use it wisely, he wrote. Don't say I never do you favors. Jack summoned Kane to his office, this time with Diane at his side. When Kane arrived, expecting another reluctant concession, he was met with a different tone entirely. We know everything, Diane said. About your offshore accounts. Your fraudulent ventures. You want to play games? Let's raise the stakes. Jack threw a thick manila folder across the desk. Inside were copies of bank records, signed correspondence, and links to illegal financial activity. You may have a video, Jack said, but we have your freedom in our hands. Kane's smirk flickered, just briefly, before he masked it. Bluff, he said coolly. Try proving it in court. Half those companies are ghosts. Diane leaned forward. Maybe. But all it takes is one leak. One whisper to the right journalist. Suddenly, you're not a corporate star, you're a conman with an international warrant. Kane clenched his jaw. He'd underestimated them. Jack continued, here's the deal. You dissolve the partnership. You return control of our assets. And you delete the video. Permanently. Or I go nuclear. Kane stood in silence, weighing his options. He wasn't afraid of scandal, he'd lived through worse, but prison? Losing his newfound control? That terrified him. Finally, he nodded. Fine. But don't think this is over. Jack stood. For you, it is.